What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my builds guide and unit review of Ginnungagap, Attuned Nino, Harken, Isadora, and Wil. So we have got Ginnungagap as a colorless dagger cavalier with Arcane Void as the arcane dagger. I've made a full video going over the best users of this weapon. So this gives her minus in special cooldown and also gives her +5 to all of these stats in the combat, and it does have the sabotage effect built in the weapon. So she can make use of her slot B skill and double down on the debuffs on the enemies. It is going to be checking for the highest debuff on each stat on the target foe and the foes that are within 2 spaces of them. So even if the target foe has got some kind of debuff neutralization, it can still count the debuffs from the allies in 2 spaces of them. And it is also going to be giving you the guaranteed follow-up attack, which does help Ginnungagap because she's not really all that fast, and she also gets special cooldown charge +1 on both her attacks and the enemy's attacks. And she does have really high base attack at 47, but outside of that, her stat spread is a bit awkward where she has got a lot more speed than you would need on a slow unit, and she also doesn't have enough speed that you'll need on a fast unit. She ends up having a decent mixed bulk with base 30 defense and base 32 resistance, but like I said, it can be a bit awkward at times, and she does come with lethality as the special, which she's easily able to use with this arcane dagger and also her slot B skill. So her preferred slot B skill does make her stand out, and it's called Ruler of Nihility. So at start of turn, it is going to be inflicting status on the foes that are within 5 spaces nearest to her, and also any of those foes that are within 2 spaces of them. So it's a pretty easy skill to debuff multiple foes at the same time, and you can debuff them for -7 attack and defense, and also the discord status, which is going to be punishing them for being near each other, and also with the flash status, which does allow you to just initiate combat easily on them. And having this kind of flash status is especially really useful for something like Aether Raids defense. And then at start of combat, if her foe's HP is at or above 75%, or if any kind of penalty is active on the foe, then she's able to debuff them for -5 attack and defense debuff in the combat. And she's also able to get the special jumping that we have seen before with the winter units and also with Rally Spectrum. So she basically gets one special jump before her first attack, and this is going to be helping her trigger lethality a lot more easily because Arcane Void does give you these special charges, so you're basically able to trigger lethality on her double. And it also means that you can retaliate back with lethalities if you get attacked in the enemy phase. So this is going to be providing good support to your allies and also debuffing the foes for the flash status and also the attack and defense debuff, which does get added up for the sabotage effect in her weapon. She also comes with Fire Flood Boost 3 as the slot A skill, which can give her extra HP and also the extra attack and resistance, and this also lets you get the guard effect on the foe. So it is going to be helping her function as a bit of a tanky unit, especially with her mixed bulk. And she also does introduce Fatal Smoke 4, so now it can stop any kind of healing or any kind of non-special miracle effects in the combat. And Fatal Smoke 4 is going to be helpful on a unit like Chronia, for example, who could be used with Rally Spectrum of Brave Robin, and also any kind of nuke that wants to get rid of the foes and not just have the miracle effect interrupt. And you can also run this with the pre-combat damage because it is going to be a lot more annoying when they are not able to heal up the HP, and you also just get rid of any kind of non-special miracle effects. The miracle special is still something you'll have to consider if they're pre-charging it for a Gambit build, but outside of that, stuff like Fallen Maria, Summer Ymir, and all of those units are going to be getting threatened by Fatal Smoke 4. So because she's a rearmed unit, you can easily fodder her and not lose her from your barracks, and she's going to be functioning as a high attack dagger cavalier who can also support with her slot B skill. So if you're going to be running her on a budget, then you can simply give her the defense refine or the resistance refine and run attack defense catch for getting a bit extra bulk and also the extra attack. And you can also run the flared mirror skill on her so that you can get the pre-combat damage and also set up the flame terrain. She doesn't really have Kanto in her kit, so unfortunately that is something you'll be missing out. But you can try and double down on the things that she has got going for her, especially with the debuffs. So you can run Panic Smoke 4 for getting the foe penalty doubler effect, and that is going to be going well with the sabotage effect built into Arcane Void and with the debuffs that she can do easily with her slot B skill. Attuned Nino is a green dagger infantry unit with Gondel as her preferred weapon. This gives her minus and special cooldown, and at start of turn, if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, then she can give herself and the allies in 2 spaces the +6 attack and speed buff, and if she initiates combat or if she's facing any kind of ranged foe in the enemy phase, then she's able to get +5 to all of her stats and also gets the extra attack in the combat depending on the highest total buffs on herself and the allies in 3 spaces. So it is pretty much a modern Blade Tome effect, and then she can get the half of it in the speed, defense, and resistance. So with the visible buff that she's able to give to herself, she can get +12 attack and also get +6 to speed, defense, and resistance, which does help. And she also has 30% damage reduction on foe's first attack, including the brave hits. So this allows her to have a bit more bulk as a nuke, and she also heals up 7 HP after the combat. She does have an amazing offensive stat spread of base 47 speed with a super boon and also base 44 attack that also has a super boon. And because she's an attuned unit, just like rearmed units, you're able to fodder them without losing them from your barracks. And she does provide Fleeting Echo as the attune skill, which is going to be available for all of the ranged units except for healers. So this gives you +2 speed in the player phase and also gives you 30% damage reduction on foe's first attack. So this is mainly going to be useful on any kind of ranged unit that wants to survive the hits of the enemy and wants to stack up the damage reduction with stuff like Remote Sparrow or Brash Assault 4, for example. So it is going to be working out on a myriad of different units, but it does help on the units that do want to survive the next attack of the enemy, like Wind Tribe Kagera, for example. She's also a unit who can stack up the damage reduction with a Remote Sparrow. And we haven't really got too many attune skills, so the options are kind of limited at this point. And she also has Speed Defense Tempo 4, which allows her to neutralize the special charging effects of the foes and also get the Null Guard effect for herself. And this also allows her to pierce the damage reduction by 50%. So it's a pretty good way of piercing through the damage reduction without really triggering lethality. And Fang Ties is her exclusive skill, which does make her a lot more unique and kinda like a Green Yuri in a way, because at start of turn, she's able to give herself the +1 movement status and also the Canto 1 status. And then it also has the Pulse effect built in, and the Pulse effect depends on the special cooldown count that you have at the moment. So if it's at max value, then you're able to get -2 special cooldown count, and if it's 1 cooldown less than max, then you're able to get -1 special cooldown at start of turn. This effect allows her to pre-charge her specials while still getting the +1 movement. You'll definitely have to watch out for the stalled status from Duo Thor and something like Summoner Duels, but this does enable her to get the extra movement and still pulse down these specials, unlike Legend Yuri. And Canto 1 is also really good for retreating, so overall she's going to be functioning basically as a Green Yuri because she's able to get the extra movement and she doesn't really have foul play, but still the fact that she can be self-sufficient with the skill and with the visible buffs that she gets is really good, and she's able to easily pre-charge her own specials without really requiring any kind of support. So if you're going to be building her up on a budget, then you can simply give her Null Follow-Up as the Sacred Seal and just run Reposition, and you can get the Fleeting Echo skill and also Speed Defense Tempo 4 at the same time if you make use of the Young Mia Combat Manual in the Divine Codes. And Flash Sparrow is also something that you can get, so you can just try and get all of these skills, but it is going to be a bit hard. And she can also be used as an AoE nuke, even though she doesn't really get any kind of true damage for the AoE special. Still, like, she is an amazing AoE nuke because of the fact that she can instantly charge her AoE special with her Slotsy skill and Quicken Pulse. So this allows you to just immediately trigger your Blazing Wind and then loop it with Special Spiral 4. Special Spiral 4 is going to be there for the looping, but it also gives you +5 true damage on the AoE special. So it is something that she can easily use, and it can be helpful in the team compositions where you're not really able to provide her with the pulse effect. So she does have a bit more versatility, and Life and Death 4 is going to be run in the slot A so that you can maximize on your AoE damage. And she does have the attack super boon, so that is going to be definitely the thing that you can go for if you're going to be running an AoE build on her. And lethality is again a special that you can use on her, because even though she can pierce to the damage reduction with her Tempo 4 skill, you can still get the damage reduction shredding on the hits that you don't trigger lethality, and on your first hit, namely, and then on the second hit, you're able to trigger lethality because of having Flash Sparrow. so she's easily able to trigger lethality and pierce through the damage reduction completely on her double attack, or even on her brave hits if you're going to be using her with Brattle Katria. Harken is a sword infantry unit with Troubling Blade as the dual phase brave weapon with 11 might, and this does give you -1 special cooldown, so Bonfire and No Quarter become a 2 cooldown special. And at start of combat, if his HP is at or above 25%, then he's able to get +5 to all of his stats, and also gets 40% damage reduction on foe's first attack, and he also gets special cooldown charge +1 on both his attacks and the enemy's attacks. So this allows him to easily trigger his specials like Bonfire and also No Quarter for piercing through damage reduction. And just like hell, he does have the warping where he can warp to the nearest space of adjacent foes in 4 spaces of him. And this allows him to have much better mobility than a lot of the infantry units who will not be having this kind of warping. So it is pretty good on an infantry unit, and it is pretty much like an extra movement but with extra steps. And he does have good base attack at base 46 for having this kind of dual phase brave weapon. So Harken is a really versatile sword infantry unit. Despite the fact that this weapon is not the most complex, still it's quite useful and does provide him with the flexibility in functioning in different roles. So if you're going to be running him on a budget, then you can simply give him Savage Blow as the player phase slotsy scale on a budget and just run him with Attack Defense Ideal Sacred Seal. But if you're trying to use him in Gale Force teams, which he can easily be used in because of the special charges and the brave weapon, then this is the build that he can run, and he can infantry pulse, other units like Asker for example, and also get the benefit out of Asker by having a 2 cooldown Gale Force, which he can easily trigger even against any kind of foe with the guard effect. And he can also be used with a more of a tanky build with Gambit and Aether or Miracle, which can give you 10 true damage per hit. It also gives you 40% damage reduction. He's not really the fastest, so not a lot of options of running a dodge skill, so Gambit can be one of the ways that he can get the damage reduction, and then Panic Smoke 4 could be run so that he can tank a lot better and stat stack with the foe penalty doubler effect. And now that we have discussed the Gambit build, I think that he is easily one of the best infantry units who can have access to No Quarter. The reason being is that he has got -1 special cooldown weapon, the special charges, and also the brave effect. So he can easily trigger No Quarter on his brave attack, and in the Vantage range, he's going to be able to pierce through the damage reduction. So he could be used as a Vantage unit in Aether Raids offense with the friendly fire damage units like Winter Bernie, Spring Bernie, or Rearmed Sonia, and we also have Tea Time Lysithea and Brave Lysithea. So any of those units could be run so that he can use Reciprocal Aid and fall into the Vantage range, and also the Brazen Attack Defense Sacred Seal range. So this allows you to stack up a lot of attack, and also you can get another status effect with Inside Attack Speed. So it's pretty easy to trigger the Prime skill in Aether Raids offense with units like Peony, Asker, and such. So it's not going to be all that hard to trigger the distant counter effect out of the Prime skill. And this is easily one of the roles that Harken can shine in because of having a really solid weapon. You can also use him in Summoner Duels as a Vantage unit with Distant Storm and Fury 3. So this allows him to fall into the Vantage range in a single combat, and he's going to be able to just jump scare the opponent with his warping many times. And No Quarter is going to be the damage reduction piercing special that he can run. And because as of making this video, the Might of Myriad skills is a captain skill that he can get, you can just run Fury 4 on him if you do have that captain skill available. Otherwise, you can just use Distant Storm for its chip damage and also the distant counter effect. And finally, at max investment, you can try and give him Attack Defense Bulwark 4, which can give you the healing, the damage reduction piercing, and also the super obstruct effect. So he can be run with Attack Defense Finish 4 because he's easily going to be able to trigger a special, and it could be run for getting some in-combat healing, while the Bulwark skill gives you the post-combat healing. And he can also get true damage out of it, and he can just function as a really solid brave weapon tank. Isadora is a supportive Lance Cavalier with Guarding Lance as her preferred weapon. This gives her -1 special cooldown, and if any kind of assist skill, like a movement assist or rally skill, is used by her or targets her, then she's able to give herself and the target ally the +6 attack and speed buff, and also the defense buff and bonus doubler status and the foe penalty doubler effect. So this is going to be stacking up a lot of visible status effects that are useful for omni tanking, and she is basically going to be the best smite bot in the game because she can give these status effects while still having the snack skill in her base kit, and she can also be useful in the combat herself, with the weapon giving her +5 to all of her stats in the combat, and also the null follow-up effect, and then she can also get 40% damage reduction on foes' first attack. But she's going to be used a lot more for her supportive aspect, because she can be used with any kind of Omni tank for getting the bonus doubler status and also the foe penalty doubler status. And then she can also support even more with her slot B by either running the snack skill or even the ruse skill. And her base attack is going to be at base 43 with the super boon. And mainly you're going to be trying to run the plus speed IV on her, which she does have pretty good base speed for at base 46. So overall, Isadora is pretty much the best smite bot that you can have in the game, with this kind of really stacked preferred weapon that can provide amazing support. And she also has the other options if you're trying to invest in her heavily for something like Omni tanking. So on a budget, you can simply run her with Resistance Tactic Sacred Seal and also run any kind of drive slotsy skill. But if you're going to be using her for the Omni tank support, then you can run an Infantry Speed Tactic, which can allow you to give out another status effect in the null follow-up status, and you can just smite and function as a really good smite bot. This can be run in the in-game content and also in Aether Raids offense. And if you're not running the Ruse 4 skill on your Aether, then she can function as a Ruse bot as well, with Speed Defense Ruse 4, being able to debuff the enemy for the Schism status, which can disable the Brattlecatcher teams and also the Winter Cordelia teams. And this also goes really well with the foe penalty doubler effect that she's got in her weapon. Wil was the instant demote unit in the 3-star 4-star pool, and he's a colorless bow archer with halting bow plus as the inheritable weapon. This is basically the non-seasonal version of Peppy Bow Plus of Winter and Net. So it is going to be giving you the -5 attack and defense debuff on the foe in the combat, and also the follow-up negation effect. So not the greatest weapon, honestly, and we do have better weapons even if you cannot really give him an arcane bow. I'll definitely go over that in a minute. So as for an infantry unit in the free-to-play pool, he does have 188 BST, and he also has a pretty unique stat spread, which we haven't really seen before too much on the free-to-play archers. So he ends up having a lot more resistance than them, and that enables him to run the ploy skills. Unfortunately, he doesn't really have the highest speed, so he's mainly going to be stacking up his attack, which is pretty high at base 45 with a super boon, and also ascending his resistance if you're going to be using the Ascended for red on him. So he's not really too insane as a free-to-play unit with his fodder, but still, he's able to stand out because of having higher resistance. And if you're going to be building him up, then you can try and give him Golden Yule Bow Plus from Winter Claude, and this is definitely the non-arcane weapon that you can easily give him, because you can loop Special Spiral 4 with Glacies and trigger that in the combat because of the special jumping that you can get out of Golden Yule Bow. So you can stack up the resistance and run the ploy skill. You definitely want to run a ploy skill on him so that he can debuff the foes and make productive use out of his resistance. And because he's going to be having such a high resistance stat, he's easily going to be out damaging Deadeye as the special by running Iceberg or Glacies. And if you run him with Special Spiral 4, then he can have the damage reduction piercing while having the damage of Glacies. And you can also give him an Arcane Bow and Arcane Nastron, and that is going to be giving him -1 special cooldown and also damage reduction, which is helpful. So you can loop Iceberg as the special and just run attack resistance finish 4 as the slot A skill to get more true damage and also the healing. And you of course want to use the ploy skill on him, and if you want to use him with another weapon, then Wyvern Yumi Plus is going to be a pretty nice dual phase brave weapon, which he can easily make use of because of his high attack and also higher magical bulk. So Fire Flood Boost 3 could be run in the slot A so that he can get the guard effect, and then you can loop Iceberg and have it at 1 cooldown that you can easily trigger on your brave attack. So you again want to stack up the resistance and then make use of the ploy skill. We don't really have attack defense ploy as of making this video, so defense res ploy 3 is pretty much going to be the main option, and you can just stack up the attack on him so that he can do a lot of damage with this kind of dual phase brave weapon. And if you want to stack up a lot of speed on him, then I would only suggest doing that at like max investment. And for that, White Wind Bow Plus is going to be the perfect weapon because you're able to get 3 status effects with this kit with the Attuned Attack Oath Echo, and you also debuff the enemy for the exposure status and also the ploy status. And attack speed ploy is something that we have now, so it could be run And he can run speed defense tempo so that he can pierce the damage reduction and also get the tempo effect. We already get the null follow-up effect at a White Wind bow, so it's a weapon that can work out at this kind of max investment if you really want to speed stack on him. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more free videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Attuned Nino's extra movement against stalled status. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.